Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. As the trial for Derek Chauvin's other accomplices is set to begin, we need to consider the fact and remember that the white media and the authorities are doing everything that they can to keep the terms hate crime out of the discussion. And it's not just in the murder of George Floyd. In the trial of Ahmaud Arbery's murderers, the prosecution went way out of their way to make sure that they didn't bring hate crimes into consideration. Yeah, because you don't want to offend that all-white jury, now do you? Now, the talking point that the DA there tries to use is, well, the feds were talking about going after this guy anyway, so we figured we'd leave it for them. So you have two of the most high-profile hate crime murders that have taken place in living memory. And yet the white media and the white authorities have made it very clear, well, we're not bringing hate crimes charges on this, maybe at the federal level, but we're going to make it where it's basically not considered a hate crime even when we admit that it is. And of course, you got the white media who are making sure to cheerlead all of this and doing the typical white splaining. Well, it's just so difficult. You see, it's a high bar to get over. So difficult. I mean, you can't really blame them for not bringing it because it's just so difficult to prove. And yet, for at least the last year or so, especially in the last 8 months, we have had the white media giving us an orgy of examples of black people who they claim have been attacking Asians, and for some strange reason, those same DAs and prosecutors who were talking about how difficult it was to bring charges and how they want to hand it off to the feds, all of a sudden at the city and state level, they're saying, oh, we can bring hate crimes charges. Oh, we can definitely bring hate crimes charges. This is clear-cut case of hate crime. We're bringing those charges. And you don't have anybody in the white media saying, man, these guys have really stuck their necks out there. These guys they're overcharging the defendants. Do you know how hard it is to get hate crimes charges actually proven in court? You know how hard it is to convict on that? White media's not saying that. So it needs to be understood that what's happening here is the weaponization of the law against black people. Black people are the ones who forced hate crimes laws onto the books. But of course, as long as you're depending on these white supremacist DAs and attorney generals and U.S. attorneys to be the ones handling these cases, of course, as far as they're concerned, we're not bringing those. We're not going to bring them on behalf of black people. This is meant to send the message. Hate crimes laws, we'll only use them against black people. To them, this is the white supremacist idea of a joke. This is their way of sending a message. Only way we're bringing hate crimes charges are against the very people who need them in the first place. This is how a race war is conducted. Protect the criminals and criminalize the victims. Of course, by trying to find a way to associate black faces with these headlines, the goal is excruciatingly clear. This is deliberate anti-black propaganda. The message from the white media is, oh, you got these black people talking about how they're being mistreated and attacked. Why? You got some crackhead in New York City who may or may not have been under orders from the NYPD, who we have on video roughing up some Asian bystander. And next time these black people are talking about a crime, just remember they're no different than anyone else. That's what this is really about. It is a racial political operation being conducted by the white media. And it's something that they only do with black people, specifically those of us who came out of slavery in this country. They certainly would not do it if we were talking about Jewish people being attacked. In New York City, in Brooklyn no less, you had this white woman who actually accosted and spat on a Jewish child, saying that Hitler should have killed all of you, etc., etc. And this woman was caught on video doing this. Again, you didn't have the DA saying, we don't know if any sort of hate crimes charges can be brought. White media's not saying, ooh, you might have overcharged her. You know how tough it is to prove those hate crimes. They're not saying that at all. All the usual talking points that they only bring out where black people are concerned, all of a sudden we don't hear them. Hate crime? Absolutely. Oh, we're hitting her with a hate crime, all right. Now, this woman is not accused of having struck the child or the child's parent. She's not accused of kicking anyone or hitting them with an object or killing anyone. And yet you got the NYPD saying this aggravated harassment charge is going to be treated as a hate crime. This is a racial message. We have all the authority that we need. We have all the power we need, all the legislative tools we need to bring hate crimes charges. We can do it for anything whatsoever. But we're not going to do it where black people are concerned. What, black people are supposed to be thinking that the law is supposed to protect them? No, the laws weren't written to protect you. They were written to protect the white supremacists, particularly if they're attacking a black person. Then the law is always on the bad guy's side. You also had an incident on the Long Island Railroad where you had some racists who were hurling all sorts of slurs and threats of violence against a woman and her family. and it was caught on video. And these guys, they wound up turning themselves in, and the white media, again, is not saying how difficult it could be to prove those hate crime charges. Oh, you're sure that it's going to be very tough to do this? It's going to be very, very tough to prove this one. Now, the woman in particular, she's neither blonde-haired nor blue-eyed, and clearly this is a person of color, though the last name was my first clue that, might be something else going on here, because they certainly wouldn't be doing this on behalf of regular black folks. I have to wonder. And then I listened to the video of her, and it became very obvious exactly why it was that they felt in this case they could bring some hate crime charges on her behalf.
When I heard that they were arrested, I felt somehow validated as a human, as a woman, as a U.S. citizen. Justice prevails.
As a human, a woman, and most of all, a U.S. citizen. Notice that she doesn't say anything about her ethnicity or race. She doesn't say that she's validated as a person of color, or whatever ethnicity she identifies as. She leaves the racial part out, even though that's exactly the reason why the woman was verbally attacked in the first place and threatened. Because of her race. Not because she's a woman or a human being or a U.S. citizen, but because of the color of her skin. But she doesn't mention race at all. And I think we can all draw some reasonable conclusions about why that is. So, this is being brought on behalf of an immigrant. So in the case of the white woman who spat on this Jewish child, that was basically on the hate crime against someone because of their religion. And in the case of Miss Edelkind and her family, hate crime on the basis of national origin. That's the way that this is going. Only time it's going to be brought on the basis of race is if they think that there's a black person who they can accuse of it. These white supremacists in these DA's offices and in these courtrooms and in these police departments, they are putting their anti-black vitriol on full display. They want everyone to know they are at war with black people. They don't want there to be any doubt that we're the ones who they're gunning for and that they are giving an absolute green light to everybody to come against us. You had that case of that killer Karen, Rhonda Wozniak. This woman tried to use her car to hit 3 black families. You had 3 women and their 5 children, and she was trying to kill 3 black families. When they told her, "What the hell are you doing trying to run us over?" This woman throws her racial slurs. Everybody agrees, oh, this is clearly racial in nature. And then what happened was, as soon as the media attention died down, the DA told the courts, you know what, we think that she should just get probation and she should get a little bit of community service maybe. We don't want to go too hard on her. She was supposed to go on trial, and the DA knew exactly what would happen if that was allowed to occur. So as soon as he saw that the cameras were no longer right in front of his face, he said, "Psst, hey, let's make this plea deal so we can let you go. We're going to send a message to the niggers on this one." It was the DA who did that. This woman had dead to rights, but you had the prosecutor making it clear, hate crimes charges, those are not supposed to be applied on behalf of black people. They're only supposed to be used against black people, not for black people. That's what happened here in this case. In Monroe, Washington, you had an incident where a white student made racial taunts against a black student, and what happened was you had the father of the white student who made death threats and racist remarks at the black student over the phone. Now, that was back in November, but there were no charges that were brought until just this month. Now, before anyone goes getting soft-headed and saying, well, there's an example, some progress is being made, not so fast, Skippy. Because the superintendent of that school district, he got himself placed on administrative leave, and people have been demanding that he resign due to the fact that they've been talking about racism and hate in that school district for the longest time, and he hasn't done anything about it. Situation there so bad that you had the students do a walkout protest on December 13th in front of the district headquarters. You even had the principal of one of their schools who got himself put on disciplinary administrative leave because apparently I guess he couldn't contain himself. There was an assembly that was supposed to be addressing concerns about discrimination. This guy, he had a full white supremacist meltdown. He started spouting derogatory and racial slurs in the middle of the assembly. Oh, but don't worry, he's back on the job again. So this wasn't some momentary bout of decency by the authorities. This stuff's been coming to a head for a while. And of course, the authorities have been very hush-hush about the background of this white student who was making the taunts against the black one, and of course their father. Not sure if this is a case of inbreeding gone wild or not, but the point is, they're not giving us any details about him. His name is William Cunningham, age 39, but white media is not putting his mugshot out there. I mean, the guy's been arrested and charged, so that being the case, what's the problem? Well, the problem happens to be we don't want anyone thinking that hate crimes charges are supposed to be brought on behalf of black folks, so we want to make sure that when this all goes away, that there's no evidence that it happened. So this guy threatens a child, making racist slurs while he's doing it. And as far as the authorities are concerned, why, we don't want to go too hard on this guy, we got to protect this guy so he can commit the next hate crime. Now, Louisville, Kentucky was where Breonna Taylor was brutally murdered, but it's also where Kenneth Walker took a stand against white supremacist thugs with badges. Though we also need to remember Louisville is a hotspot for other anti-black violence, particularly against children. You had this white supremacist thug, William Bennett, supposed to be a teacher at one of the high schools there, Marion Seymour High School, and this guy calls himself physically attacking a teenager, physically attacking a child. Now, the pretense for the attack was that apparently the teacher didn't know if the kid had earbuds on or not, but as Strain explained, he was going to his fourth period class, and as soon as he walks into the classroom, this Bennett character accuses him of wearing a bandana. Well, as Strain explained, it's a face mask. And then there was an accusation that he's got earbuds on in school. And apparently this teacher, who ain't a teacher at all, he's just a thug in the classroom, called himself confronting this young man. Now, this young man's already been through a lot in his young life. Apparently, he had been shot a year or two earlier. He survived that, and he's back in school. And this thug, William Bennett, he decides that he's going to have a back and forth with this kid, getting aggressive with this kid. And then this Bennett character decides to tell this child that he was just another black boy that got shot. And you're going to end up in the streets dead. Now, was that him making some sort of racial wishful thinking? Or was that him making a threat about what he thought he was going to do? Well, that young man Strain, he saw himself as being under threat, and he was right. So push comes to shove, and next thing you know, there's a video of this Bennett character. We see him, has this kid in what looks like some sort of neck lock, and he's pummeling this kid and yelling obscenities and profanity and racial slurs at him. You got the other student trying to get this guy off of him, and this brutal thug. And finally, one of the teachers comes on, a couple of the teachers actually, and this guy is grabbing this kid by his hair and refuses to let go. Well, what happened was the school, since the video went viral, they felt like, oh God, they got us. We got to look like we're doing something. So what happened was they had a report written up about this scumbag, and he got terminated, but I'm still waiting to find out when's he going to be charged with assault. This was a child that he attacked. No talk about any sort of hate crimes. In fact, no talk about it being a crime at all. And of course, you won't be surprised to find out this Bennett character has been in trouble before. These white supremacists always are. Back in 2000, during his first high school teaching job in Hardin County, the students there described him getting angry, kicking a trash can, and telling them that they were acting like a bunch of monkeys. Now, this is a majority black area, no doubt that he's doing this. And in another display of violence, this Bennett character grabbed and lifted a student's desk before pushing the student out the door. An assistant principal at that school wrote that he had to tell Bennett several times to let go of the student's arm and had to push his hand away. Yeah, so this is the first time that this guy's called himself grabbing a student who won't let go. Needless to say, his contract at Hardin County was not renewed. Now, before we go any farther, it needs to be understood. This is all information that the school district could have found out about this piece of trash on their own. They didn't need to wait for this violent attack to take place and for it to go viral and the media attention. That's what they decided to wait for, but they didn't have to wait this long. They could have found all this out. What, they're not vetting anyone's backgrounds? I can promise you right now, if it was a black teacher accused of harming a white student or any student, non-black student at all, they definitely would have found out. They would have had it all over the place and said, what, you think you're coming here? To hell with that. You're not coming here. You're not going anywhere. Oh, they would have had this guy decertified. They would have had him up on charges. It would never have been allowed to get this far. So as we see with these police departments and as we see with these hospitals and as we see with the schools, white supremacists, they don't get sent to jail. They rarely ever even get fired. They just get transferred. Just move them around. This is what I like to call the Chris Rufo effect. Sure, a lot of it predates him, but he definitely has played more than a little part in exacerbating it and intensifying it. This is what Christopher Rufo wanted. This is what the Manhattan Institute employed him to do. To embolden and inflame these mentally unhinged white supremacists, Get them on the idea that somebody needs to show these niggers that the white man's still in charge. Someone needs to show them they don't have any rights and that all you gotta do is show these niggers you're a boss and they'll bow down to you. This is what Christopher Rufo and his thug pals have been trying to do. They have been trying to provoke and promote exactly this kind of anti-black violence in the schools against black children. This is what it's always been about. Because for the Christopher Rufos, this is not about a culture war. This is about a race war. And the targets are black children who are seen as soft targets. So black parents in particular, they need to be the main ones making it very clear that child is not a soft target. You go messing with this child, that parent's going to come in tow, and you better believe ain't going to be nothing nice when they show up. See, we got to get black people out of this mindset that whenever one of these white supremacists harms some black person, especially a black child, well, the parents are going to be sitting on their hands and crying for the cameras and trying to figure out how do I get myself a quickie settlement from the city or from the school district. That's not the mindset you need to be having. These white supremacists are waging war on us and they're targeting black children. The response is going to have to be a hell of a lot more robust than that. Because these white supremacists, as far as they're concerned, oh, these Negroes, they'll let us go ahead and just beat them up all day. We'll beat their children in schools. We'll threaten their children's lives. And these dumb Negroes, they're all just looking for a handout anyway. So we'll go ahead and keep the empty promise of a quickie courtroom paycheck in front of them. That'll be enough to keep them letting us harm their children and threaten their children's lives. They'll let us keep getting away with it. Because that's just how they are. Now, some black folks have already shown the police, nah, it ain't going to be going like that. It's way past time that black parents made it very clear that we already understand that the state has made it abundantly clear that they're not going to protect black children at all. They're giving the green light to these white supremacists to carry out these attacks. We're not interested in their money. We're only interested in making sure that these threats are neutralized. Somebody calls themselves on a phone telling some black child that you're going to kill them. That's somebody who needs to be stopped. And with these DAs and these police departments flagrantly making it clear that they're on the side of the white supremacists, we have to make it clear to them that when it comes to protecting ourselves, and especially when it comes to protecting black children, we don't believe in politely raising our hand and waiting to be recognized. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of our contributors. Dark Black, Delvin, Steve Mugisa, Jermaine Morstan, and Shantez. And a big B1 salute to our sister Nicole's View. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.